Welcome to another episode of Live with Laura. I'm your host, Laura Hettiger. And friends, we are kicking off day 2 of round 1 of March Madness. People all over the country are so excited about basketball. But today, we are going to talk about a different sports story, a sports story that takes place off the court. And instead of madness, we're going to talk about a lot of kindness. I am so excited to be joined by the youngest guest we have had on Live with Laura, but arguably one of the most accomplished guests that we have had on Live with Laura. A local high school junior, Gage Dugan, is in the hot seat. Gage, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, Laura.
So you are from Flora High School, which is about 100 miles directly east of St. Louis.
Yeah, today it was about, I think, a 2-hour drive. We had to leave nice bright and early, which did not suit well with me. I slept all the way here, so.
As a typical 16-year-old boy should. I would do the exact same thing. And we are so thankful that you made the drive and your grandpa and your aunt made the drive too, because this is a really special story. We were going to do it via Zoom, but it's just going to have such of a bigger impact by having this one-on-one conversation where we can look each other in the eyes. And actually, let's start right there with the amount of times you've been to St. Louis. You and your family have been making this trip to St. Louis a lot over your lifetime. Why is that?
So when I was born with cancer in both legs. I was life-flighted from Mount Vernon to Cardinal Glennon here in St. Louis. I then proceeded to stay in the ICU in PICU for about 3 to 4 months. So by the time that I got to come home for the very first time and my family got to see me, I was probably 5 or 6 months old. So then from there on out, it was just constant trips back and forth. You'd come down here I think we did it every 4 weeks. Just kind of a check in, make sure everything is going well. Then we kind of started to get older, and I started to realize, I had a love for sports, and I came down and I asked my doctors, I was like, is there a possibility that I could get the clearance to start playing sports? And they were like, you can try and play baseball. You just have to regulate it. You have to know your body. So I started playing for Britain's Bullpen out of Olney, Illinois, at the age of 6. And I played there for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And one of the most memorable times of my lifetime, there was a time we were coming home from St. Louis, and we had stopped at the gas station to get some snacks. And my mom got a phone call, and in my lifetime, the phone calls are never good because it's like, oh man, something's bad happening. But she got the phone call and she starts crying, and in my little mind, I'm like, oh no, this can never be good, right? And she kind of gets off the phone and she just kind of turns around and looks at me and she goes you're cancer free. And I was like, oh, I just didn't know how to react to it. I was like, I just didn't really process the whole thing, and I felt like I didn't even have it processed when we got home. And I got home it felt like the entire town of Florida there. I got home and it was congratulations there, and I was just the community was so behind me, and I didn't know how to feel about it. I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is something that I'll remember forever. And even 2-3 days after that, up at the racetrack when it was still going on in between Louisville and Florida, they had the monster trucks out there, and there's a Cancer Crusaders monster truck, and I got to go on that, and I got to ride around in it when they were doing their laps around the track. So it's just things like that, that are super cool, especially as a young kid that you don't really get to experience. And sadly, that whole cancer-free thing was short-lived. We went back about 5-6 months later, and they had told me that I had got it again, and then I had also got an immune disorder. It's called CAPS, and it's essentially just I don't have an immune system to fight off diseases. So I have to get a shot called Alaris every 3 months. It is basically a fake immune system. So I have the ability to fight off, colds and flus and stuff like that. So that was always a uphill battle for me, going into through sports and through school, of constantly having to go to doctor's appointments while wanting to, obviously strive in the sports that I was playing because it's such a big thing for me, and dealing with sicknesses and, colds turning into something severe. So I think that challenge itself was a lot to overcome. But I think, the older that I got and the more that I kind of shaped myself around that, this can be beneficial to me instead of this hurting me. And, I started to realize that, this is not a lot of people experience this. And I hope no one ever has to experience that. But I can also take that as a learning experience. I can build off of this and become a better person through and through. So, that's what I started to do. Cardinal Glennon was phenomenal. They had constantly been amazing no matter what. I can recall so many times there. There was, times during Christmas whenever we had to write our Christmas cards and put them under the Christmas tree. I still remember those. And the little play place, I always loved going there. So, St. Louis has always been kind of like a second home to me. I've come up here more than I go anywhere else. And I am a super big Cardinals fan. I got to meet the Cardinals thanks to my coach, Phil Britton. He set up a meet with the Cardinals for batting practice and stuff before a game. I got to meet like Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina, Randall Gritchick, Colton Wong, whenever all of them were still here. So that was a super cool experience.
So real quick on that, you remember that meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Would you like to have an update on that meeting?
I would.
Jesse, take a look.
Gage, what's up? This is Adam Wainwright. I remember meeting you like 10 years ago at Cardinals camp, but I wanted to take a little second to tell you congratulations on your award, man. It's so amazing to hear about all the incredible work you've done, the food drives you've led, and the people you're inspiring. So, Gage, keep it up, man. I'm very proud of you. You're an inspiration to a lot of people, and you're a pretty good basketball player, too. All right, buddy. See you.
What do you think?
That's not expected. That was one of my role models growing up. I loved watching Cardinals games, and there's always the big three. It was like Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina, and Adam Wainwright, and those were like the three role models that I kind of got into the just whatever, and they got me into sports, and that was the reason that I was playing, and that's how the meet happened. Phil Britton asked me, he was like, hey, what can we do to get you to wear like the medical mask? And this is before the medical masks were like, you needed them and stuff. So that's, as a young kid, I was like, oh, like I don't want to stand out and this, that, and the other. So he was like, what can we do to get you to wear them? And I was like, if Adam Wainwright signs them, I will wear them. And, he texted me that day, and he was like, listen, he was like, he's like, I'm gonna get you a box of masks, and I still have them at home. They're a whole bunch of Mickey Mouse masks that are signed by Adam Wainwright. But he was like, look, he's like, you promised me if I get him to sign these, you'll wear them. So, we went up there, and I never forget, I had an open Sharpie in my hand because I was holding it out for Adam Wainwright to sign. I brought a picture of me for him to sign, and he signed it, and he gave it back to me, and then I gave him a hug. And I'll never forget, on accident, scribbling down like the back of his jersey. So he had like a giant Sharpie line down the back of his jersey.
You autographed his jersey.
I autographed his jersey.
Yes.
And he went out there, and I could visibly see the autographed jersey. So my apologies on that one. That was a honest mistake, but that was just something that was super cool. And again, that's just something that just shows that there's so many people out there that are willing to put in the effort and the time and care. So.
But now you are one of those people. I am so amazed, as I sit across from you, you're only 16. You've been through cancer. You've been through this autoimmune disease that I'm guessing you are going to have to live with the rest of your life.
Yes, ma'am.
You could easily be mad at the world that God gave you these elements and these challenges, but instead, you are using the kindness that Adam Wainwright gave you and all of the other baseball players, all of the coaches that you've had, to pay it forward. Let's talk about your involvement in not only the community of Flora, but some of the opponents you have faced on the field and on the court.
Yeah, I think I'm a firm believer in God. I think God has a plan for everyone. And I think that was his plan with me was, to put me through all the stuff that he did and to shape me to who the person I am today. And this all kind of started this year in football. Flora has never won a playoff game. And this year we had a very, very good group of young men, phenomenal team, great coaching staff, and just an amazing community behind us. And, we felt strongly that this was our year. So we kind of, football season flies by, and we get to the end of the season, and we beat Red Hill at home, and then it's, the Flora Wolves are hosting a playoff game, and it's like, holy crap, like this is, this is something that's never been done before since like 2001, and we get our seedings and stuff, and they tell us, they're like, oh, you play Nashville, and something that was, I think, big to us was whenever they announced the polls and stuff, and we got into the the comments and stuff. It's like, oh, this is not a Nashville team that you want to play and all this, and they were a phenomenal team. But that's something that just brings the team together closer. Is you want to prove the people wrong, because this is the first time that we've ever done anything like of this standard. So we go out, and it was a phenomenal game. We late in the fourth quarter, we were down. Parker Helm threw a touchdown, and he threw a touchdown to me. And then we rolled around the defense, and they were walking down the field, and they're like right there, and our quarterback goes to throw it, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw the receiver, and I was like, and you probably need to go get that. So they threw it, and I went and intercepted it to seal the game, and it's still a blur to this day. I don't remember the crowd cheering. I don't remember anything. All that I can hear is just the announcer screaming like the Flora Wolves have finally done it, and the emotions just like middle of the play, the emotions just start pouring out of me. And we get done, and we get done with our coaches and all this, and we're going through and shaking hands. And obviously that's the worst part about playoffs and stuff like that is, one team has to go on and one team has to go home, and you don't ever want to see a team have to go home, especially with the seniors knowing this is their last time. And I was going through the line, and the kid that threw the interception was a freshman. He was a star receiver for them, and I think he will be a phenomenal athlete for the rest of his high school career. And he was obviously super bummed out. That's a lot of weight for a freshman to carry. And so after the game, I kind of went up to him, and I just told him, like, look, man, God's got a plan for you. You have such a bright future. Like, hold your head high, and just don't let this kind of stuff bring you down or affect what you do going forward. And I think it was Mrs. Hurtis that got a picture of us engaged in a hug. And that was that's kind of where all this started. It was posted on Facebook and all that, and people were just talking about that's a good thing and whatnot. And then we rolled around to the Pana game, and Rich Grubauer and Sam Irwin were phenomenal behind the mic. They do it out of Louisville, and they had welcomed me on the show. And I, obviously, as a 16-year-old, I got a wandering mind. Had an amazing idea of, wanting to start kind of like a food drive and stuff like this, Ken Food Drive, and we hosted Pana again at home in the playoffs. And that was something that I asked him. I was like, hey, is there a possibility that we could, get this out there and we could do this? And it was amazing. I mean, it was an absolute hit. We played Pana at home. We beat them on a game-winning field goal. And even the Pana fans brought canned food, and it was just a great gesture from them. They were a super great group. I was super glad to welcome them into Flora. Our home crowd was also amazing. I mean, they filled the stands, and they brought canned food. And that was something that was super nice to see. I loved, the community is always behind you, and that gives you a lot of a lot of confidence to kind of speak your mind and have these ideas if, you're willing to have the support. So then we roll around to the Maroa Forsyth game. We played them in the semifinals, and their mascot, Matthew, had been diagnosed with leukemia. And that one really hit a spot for me because, that was a place where I had been. I had experienced that, and I won't experience it to his level, but I will experience that for the rest of my life. So me and my mom reached out to his parents, and I was like, look, would it be okay, if I just gave him stuff that, brought me enjoyment when I was going through such a dark place and such a rough time. And after the game and stuff, Moreau ended up winning, and we got done kind of talking to our coaches and stuff, and I went over there, and I talked to Matthew's parents and his older brother. He was on the football team. He's a senior. And they were just a phenomenal family. I mean, they were super welcoming. They made sure that, I wanted to still do it after the loss and stuff. And I, went over there and I had a time of prayer with them and just told them, everything will be okay. It'll get better. And to my knowledge, I think he is doing a little bit better. Matt Schroff was talking to me about it the other day at the state tournament, and I'm pretty sure that he said that he is doing better. So that was really great to see. But, all around this year was just a super big moment for me, being able to express my gratitude towards other people and showing them that, it's not necessarily about sports. Sometimes it's about the bigger picture and life going on. And, that's kind of how my perspective of life works. So.
And guys, he's 16. If he is this wise at 16, can you go on to be a politician? Because you're going to get the whole country figured out with this type of mentality and attitude. I am joined by Gage Dugan. This is a really good time to pause because you just referenced the state tournament that happened in Champaign just last weekend, where something really, really, really special happened for Gage and his family and really the whole town of Flora. We are going to get into that right after this break. You are watching Live with Laura. Welcome back to Live with Laura. It is Friday. We are talking to Gage Dugan from Flora, Illinois. Full disclosure, that's where I'm from. I am a proud Flora High School alum, and speaking to someone who's just a junior, I am so honored that we have a kid of this wisdom and wherewithal and pride and compassion and kindness going through that school right now. If you missed the first part of our conversation, Gage, when you were born, you were diagnosed with cancer right away, leg cancer.
Yes, ma'am.
But yet you're a 3-sport athlete. How do you have any pain in your legs today?
Yeah, it's one of those things. When I was younger, it was a pretty constant pain, and as I got older and I was kind of got into remission, it still lingered here and there. But obviously, in my mind, I'm just like, you just gotta get through it because it's something that you have to get used to the rest of your life. So. Did
you have surgeries?
I don't think I had any surgeries, but they did a lot of tests and stuff like that, and it was just a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but yeah.
And now you're living with an autoimmune disorder, which I'm sure the flu season that we just had, COVID, that has to be very scary for you, but also incredibly scary for your family too.
Yeah, the flu actually did get a hold of me for a little bit. I was out of school and stuff for about a week. Thankfully, I get that Alaris shot that kind of does its job, so it wasn't too bad. But that is something that I constantly kind of worry about, because everyone can deal with pain and whatnot, but for me, being sick's the worst thing ever. Just because I can't get out of the house, and if I get limited to being in my house, and I'm like, oh man, I can't do it. I got to get outside. So.
But honestly, Not everyone can deal with the pain. My gosh, I get a headache and I'm complaining. My husband gets a cough, he's complaining. So you are like superhuman, a 3-sport athlete. Football, you're now in baseball season. Basketball season just wrapped up with the big state tournament that's now held in Champaign, Illinois at the State Farm Center. Your team, Flora, did not make it to the state championship, but you were there because you were a finalist for the Spirit of Sport Award. What is that?
Yeah, it's basically just, someone who kind of embodies the sport, someone that has that sense of urgency and sportsmanship and gratitude and, someone who's willing to kind of just pay it forward and be respectful on and off the court and, try to just impact people's lives the best of their ability.
When did you find out you were a finalist?
After the Maroa game, it was about a month later, I got pulled into our athletic director's office, Mr. McNeely. He said, there will be a Zoom call with this guy from IHSA. He said his name is Matt Troa, and you will be talking to him. And I was like, oh, okay. He was like, you're a nominee for this Spirit of the Sport Award. Just kind of walk me through like the other stuff. So that day came with the interview or the Zoom call, and he just kind of, again, he explained it to me. He was like, look, you're going to be a nominee for this award. If you do end up becoming the finalist, we'll see you up at Champaign, and we'll kind of go from there and introduce you and stuff. So that kind of got word, and then I think it got posted on like Instagram and stuff. So then it kind of just blew up from there, and it was like, it was a lot, but it was really cool. It's an experience not a lot of people get to experience. It's something that, I'll cherish and live with forever.
And it's really cool because someone else nominated you. As you get older, you will realize that there are a lot of awards given in this world where the person nominates themselves. You didn't do that. Do you have any idea who did?
I don't. Not to my knowledge. Maybe my mom or someone might know, but I do not know. But obviously, I'm grateful for it. It's super cool thing. Again, it's something that not a lot of kids get to experience, and something I will most definitely remember for the rest of my life.
Not only were you nominated, you became one of 5 finalists. Take me back to this past Saturday. What happened?
So Mr. Troha texted me and was like, hey, on Saturday, you will be recognized for the Illinois Spirit of the Sport Award winner, because whatever. And he was just like, hey,
Wait, as the winner or a finalist?
The finalist.
Okay,
Yeah, the finalist,
okay.
Sorry. And he was like, you're going to get media passes, which is something that's cool, because I've went to the state tournament the last 3 years, and usually we sit way up top and stuff. But the media passes basically allowed us access to. We could have went courtside to take pictures, but I'm not good at that. So we were allowed to sit in the box office seats, which were super, super cool. They had a small TV there that was playing. You could have watched college basketball. We had college basketball games on. We had access to a media room, which was free drinks and stuff. So that was a super cool experience. That's something that I had never experienced before. We got to come in a different way through the media place. So again, that's all just super cool stuff. And then I got told, he said, in between the third and fourth quarter, you'll walk out with Mr. Craig, and he'll kind of announce you. And I was like, oh, okay, no big deal. It's not that bad. And, he was like, come down to the scores table around 4 minutes left in the third quarter. So I was like, okay. I was like, then I got up and I started walking down there, and I was like, oh man, okay, the nerves are starting to set in a little bit. So I walked down there and I showed the people on the ground. I was like, hey, this is my pass. And like, oh, okay, go on ahead. And, I got out there and I was standing by the scores table, and I was just like, holy crap. I was so nervous. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to stand. And I was like, oh no. So then, the third quarter gets over and we walk out into the middle of the court, and, super cool. It was super cool to be able to go onto the Illini court. That's obviously a privilege in itself. But to stand out there with someone of Mr. Craig's caliber and be awarded such a such an award. It's, obviously I'm super grateful for it. He handed me the award and just kind of, they talked about like the story and what led up to me being here, and shook his hand and got our pictures. And I didn't know where to look. I was like, I told my mom whenever I got back up there, I was like, I had no idea where to look or like how to stand. I was just so nervous and anxious. But, after I got it, we kind of walked back, and Mr. Craig walked up to where we were sitting and, just again congratulated me. And, super big thanks to him. He made everything so much easier. He was really, really good about kind of walking me through what we were going to do and saying stuff. And just he was super, super, super nice. He was very respectful, and it was just an all-around great experience. So.
And you have the award with you. Would you mind holding it up so we can get a shot of it? So Gage won for the entire state of Illinois, and you've referenced Mr. Craig a few times. Craig Anderson, who is the head of the IHSA, which is basically the organization that oversees all sports for all high schools in the state of Illinois. I talked to him for 20 minutes earlier this week. He was awesome, and he sang your praises. I took a lot of notes. Would you like to hear what he said about you?
Sure.
He said Gage just rose to the top for us and what he's done in acts of sportsmanship and what we want all of our student athletes to do and the kindness that he shows.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it gets recognized. That's a big thing for me is, I'm a big giver. I don't like receiving stuff. So, as much as I can give, I enjoy that a lot more than I do. Obviously, it might sound bad, but I'd rather give to people and whatnot than, receive an award like this. Just because, it's my personality, it's my nature. It's just, how my parents raised me. So
they did a good job, my gosh. So let's talk about what life has been like over the last 6 days since winning.
I mean, it's kind of normal, I mean, it's just, obviously, you kind of have that sense of like, I don't want to say swagger, but it's just like a nice feeling to know, like, you've accomplished something of such caliber at such a young age. And obviously, it got posted on Facebook and stuff, and seeing all like the comments and stuff on that is really, really nice. Again, our community is phenomenal, no matter who it is. They are super caring and considerate, and they all have nothing but nice things to say. Yeah, it's been a super cool experience. For me, it's just been kind of normal. We got done, and it's boom right into baseball, and we played our first game yesterday. So it's like, to me, it's just like, oh man, it's in the past. Like, focus on baseball now. Mm-hmm. So.
And what position do you play in baseball?
I play center field in baseball. So.
How was yesterday's game?
Yesterday was good. We played Lawrenceville, and we won 4-0. Okay. So that was a good start to the season. So we play again tomorrow at home against Marshall. So
is Lawrenceville still one of Florida's biggest rivals?
Not anymore. We've kind of died down. Now the big rival's Fairfield, obviously, right across town. So.
Okay, so that goes back because when my grandma and your great-grandpa were growing up, they hated the Fairfield Mules. And my grandma took that to her grave, that hatred. So you got to take them down whenever you come across them. Let's talk about the fact that, again, you are so young, just 16. You have a whole nother year of high school ahead of you. You've already led food drives. You've already shown immense compassion and empathy for opponents through the Maroa game. What do you hope to do during your senior year to let your legacy continue?
Yeah, just kind of, again, just be myself. Obviously I don't want to go out there and be someone that I'm not. I think if I just go out there, and obviously sports is a big thing for me. I want to go out there and have the best sports season that I can. But just again, keep doing what I've been doing. That's showing the world and people who I really am. Obviously I wouldn't change myself for the world. Obviously God chose me to be this way, so I should express that and be the way that I was created. I don't necessarily have any bright ideas off the top of my mind for senior year. Something might pop into my mind, but again, just kind of go out there and just continue on what I'm doing, and that'll be good for me. So.
Something that else is really special. You have 2 younger brothers. They literally have to look up to you. How tall are you?
6'2".
Okay, and I'm guessing still growing.
Maybe.
Okay.
I hope.
So they're definitely looking up to you. What do you instill in your little brothers about being nice to other people?
Yeah, I always try to tell them that, don't treat someone else how you obviously wouldn't want to be treated. That's the big thing. That's been the thing for forever. And especially I am in a class at the high school. It's childcare. So we get to go to the elementary school and work in there for about 2 hours. And, you see it all the time. You'll see just a comment or something. It just really affects someone. So, I always just try to tell them, I'm like, look, you never know what's going on with someone at home or someone during school or just, if they're having a bad day. So, anything that you can, if you're going to say it, just try to make it somewhat positive or just, tell them, hey, you look good today. Or it's just something nice. You want to obviously have that, you want to try to boost their morale because at a young age, it's hard to find that confidence to be, be yourself and stuff like that. And especially living in a small town, a lot of people know everyone. So it's kind of hard for some kids to finally kind of branch out and get that full experience. And that's something that, I kind of wish that I did getting into high school. I was super, I don't want to say scared, but just nervous of, joining clubs and stuff. And now that I look back on it, that was something that I wish I did. Just because, those are experiences that you don't get back. And you obviously can learn a lot from those. We have a lot of phenomenal teachers that will teach, Mrs. Thackeray she teaches FCA, and that is about what she does for God and stuff and like that. And she just has so much good stuff to say about him. And, that's something that I've really tried over the last year to get myself to kind of get closer to him. And I've been obviously, go to church and stuff. And that has also been a big impact for me. Every football game before we'd play, I'd go down there and kind of just say a prayer and stuff like that. We did team prayers beforehand. Just having him, in my mind by my side, if I ever have a question or anything, kind of looking at him and asking, what should I do here? What's the best decision has been a big help for me. And I plan on hopefully continuing that, and building that relationship with him throughout, obviously, the older I get and just, until I have to obviously can't go to church anymore and stuff. So
what's beautiful is, again, I keep talking about the fact that you are so young because you are. I see that you're wearing a cross right now. FCA is Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So me, in my late 30s, just this year, I've started reading the Bible. And every day right before Great Day St. Louis, I go down and tell my co-host, I'm like, oh my gosh, this happened in the Bible today. This happened in the Bible today. You're not going to believe this. They're like, no, we've already read it. We do believe it. I wish I would have started my walk with God the way I am now at a much younger age. And I think if there would have been maybe older cheerleaders on the cheer team with me or older track runners on the track team with me who led by example, maybe I would have started that earlier. And I think it's beautiful that you are doing that because I guarantee you're reaching out to the sophomores, to the freshmen, and I bet you're impacting a lot of your senior teammates too.
Yeah, that was, and that's something, I don't really talk about a lot, but that is something that I'm super grateful for, was coming into high school, my freshman and sophomore year in all sports, the upperclassmen were phenomenal. They took all of the underclassmen in. They were beyond respectful to us. They showed us kind of the ropes of how to get around stuff. One of my biggest struggles came my sophomore year during kind of basketball, going into baseball. Just kind of underperforming in sports. And obviously, if you play sports and you're serious about them, that's the biggest thing is obviously you want to perform at your best. And I'll never forget. It was amazing just to see. Logan Atwood was a senior my freshman year, and he was off at college. My sophomore year, and he still reached out to me and talked to me. And he actually called me that night and just kind of talked to me about what was going on and stuff. And it's just those kind of gestures, you know, that you wish that you have or you get to experience in your upperclassmen, because you want them to set that standard and show you where, you know, you need to be by the time you become a senior. So I think that's a big thing for me, was the impact that they had on me at such a young age. And they showed me that, you know, if you can get to this level and exceed that, then you will be a lot better off. And, you know, they are to credit for, you know, some of the stuff that I have done, because they have just instilled so many good qualities into me. And, you know, again, that's something that I'll forever be grateful for. So.
And one of the best qualities about you is that you are so gracious to everyone else, because you could easily be like, I won this award, look at me, I'm so awesome. No, I'm the one who reached out to you to be on this show today, and I'm so thankful for that. And I'm so excited to see what you do in your future, but also get some more wisdom from you. So we are going to take our final commercial break. We are talking with Gage Dugan, the Spirit of Sport Award for the entire state of Illinois, a fantastic sport that I am honored to be sitting across from. You are watching Live with Laura. We have a few more minutes together here on Live with Laura. I'm joined with Gage Dugan from Flora, Illinois, Flora High School, home of the mighty, mighty Wolfpack. So, Gage, I've asked you a lot of deeply personal questions. Here might be the most personal. What's your favorite sport? This is the question that stumps you?
Yeah. For a long time, it was so clear cut, and now it's just like, oh man. I think I would have to say football for me. You know, it's an experience in itself, especially after the past year that really shot it through the roof. Just the atmosphere and the way the sport is played is phenomenal, and you get a free pass to hit people, which is fun. So,
I would think so. Having never played football, I would like that free pass. And it sounds like you play both offense and defense.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's a lot. And then basically you get a week off and then you go right into basketball. Yeah. What position do you play in basketball?
Kind of like center / power forward. We, my junior class is we have a lot of kids that are like 6'2", 6'3", in that range. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like everyone plays kind of all over the place. I just kind of get stuck in the paint because I can't shoot the ball to save my life. So they're just like, look, if you need to score the ball, just get it close to the basket and put it up. And I was like, okay, sounds easy enough to me.
How are you at free throws?
Hey, I got better. Shot 62% from the free throw line this year. So we're over 50. Okay. So we'll live with it. As
Larry McGrew says, free throws win ball games.
That's the biggest. That's the most pressure ever. Shooting a free throw, and whenever Larry's close enough to where you can hear him talking, and it's like, oh, these free throws are important. It's like, Larry, don't say that right now. Right?
So Larry McGrew is a longtime basketball coach in Gage's hometown, my hometown too, of Flora, Illinois. And every time my husband and I watch a game together and a free throw is being shot, I turn to him and I say, don't make me say it. Don't make me say it. He's like, just say it. Free throws win ball games. It's been instilled into me. Now you're in baseball season. So that will wrap up, I'm guessing, into the school year?
Yeah.
What's June look like for you? Is it just wide open, relaxing, or do you have a big trip on the horizon?
Yeah. So, you know, one of the cool things about this award is, you know, you get the privilege of going down to Salt Lake City, June 26th to the 29th. And, you know, I have played travel ball for a long time. So, you know, I kind of have played in a lot of spots. I've never been to Salt Lake City, and I think that'll be an interesting place to go. I've been looking at places and cool things. Obviously, you know, like the Great Salt Lake and all that's there. So I think it'll be a really fun experience. You know, obviously super grateful for it. And I mean, we'll see, because it'll be right in the time that we're getting ready for football too. So I'll get back and be gearing up for next football season. So.
From what I understand through Craig Anderson, who is the head of the IHSA, there are 51 students from across the country, one from every state, and then someone from Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. All of these students have won their own state award. Have you looked at the list?
I have not. Again, you know, since I got it, we kind of jumped right back into a sport. So I haven't free time is not really a thing for me. So I haven't necessarily gotten to it, but I do plan on looking at it before I go. I think that'll be cool to see a whole bunch of other people there.
And connect with them and hear their stories too.
I do. That's obviously something that is a big interest for me. Everyone's got a different story. Everyone's came from a different place and done different things. I think that'll be super cool to be able to see and kind of connect with people through stuff. And obviously they're doing the things the right way if they're in Salt Lake City. So,
And you were doing just about everything, it sounds like, the right way. I know your days are different based on the season and the sport that you're in. Right now in baseball season, what's a typical school day from when you wake up to when you get to school to when you go to practice to when you finally go to bed? What's that look like?
I wake up probably about 7 o'clock, and I get ready and stuff. And my youngest brother, he's 5 years old. He's in first grade. Our high school and elementary school are fairly close, so I usually go and I'll drop him off, and then I'll go to high school. And then my first 2-hour classes are childcare, so then I go right back to the elementary school, and we're there, and that's a really neat experience. You get to, I call them my best friends. I get to meet with a whole bunch of and obviously being an athlete, they all are like, oh man, we saw you the other night. So that's something cool too, seeing all the little kids that have your number on your face, gives you a little bit of extra motivation to want to play better for them. That way they can be like, oh, I have his number on my face and he's playing good. But then we go back to the high school, and from there on out it's just kind of like your average school day, classes, and then you got lunch and stuff like that. And then after school, I think we're getting into the time where we can finally go outside for baseball practice. Normally, if it's snowing in March, then we are stuck inside. But we go to practice and stuff like that, and I get done with that about 6. So then I'll kind of go home and I shower and eat, and then I usually like to sit down and relax for about an hour. And then after that, it's like, oh man, it's creeping up on bedtime. And it's just like, well, time to repeat it again.
Yeah, I didn't hear any I'm scrolling, staring at my phone, playing hours of video games.
It depends.
So you are normal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this kid is amazing.
I'm on my phone a good amount, but a lot of it's for I'm on Instagram and stuff. I keep up with a lot of sports, March Madness, obviously stuff like that. And then when I get home, I'll on occasion I'll play games with a few friends. We have 6 of us that all kind of play games together. But they're all gearing off to go to college, so it's been odd. That's a big adjustment for me. As a lot the 3 of my best friends are all going off to college, and it's holy crap. I'm next school year, I'm not gonna have them. Who am I gonna go to lunch with? But it's a learning experience. It's obviously something that'll help me kind of branch out, make new friends and stuff like that. And again, my junior classes, there's a whole bunch of super cool kids, and they're all really nice and stuff. So I don't think I have a problem. But
you mentioned college. What are you thinking about after your senior year?
I want to go to college and be a mental health counselor. Ideally, we want to play a sport. That sport's kind of up in the air. Obviously, football is the favorite sport, but if you think long term, football is really rough on the body and stuff. So it's would this be something that I'd want to put all of my future into, and then one time get hurt and then it all go away, or would you be better off going into a less physical sport but just a more time consuming sport in baseball? So I think we'll see my senior year kind of how stuff goes, and kind of gauge it at the end of the year. But obviously I'm super excited about just going to college, about it being a mental health counselor. I've always found that super interesting. I don't know, I just have a way of kind of I don't want to say connecting with people, but I hear people out, and I think from experiences in my lifetime, seeing a lot of different things puts a lot of different perspectives. So I kind of see stuff from a wider perspective, and I think that helps me a lot. So.
And I think it's so amazing. I'm the same age as your mom, and when she and I were in high school, no one talked about mental health. I mean, maybe some, but
Yeah.
not like it is today. So already at 16, that you know that's what you want to spend your working years doing, helping others, that shows tremendous growth for our society, and that's awesome. It also seems like you have a pretty good connection with kids. Would you ever want to do mental health counseling for kids?
I have thought about it, especially being in the elementary school, and we switch classes every quarter, and, you get to connect with a lot of different kids. I started off the year in kindergarten and then went to third grade, and then I went to PE where I got the third graders and the fifth graders, and then I went back to kindergarten. So, you get that wide variety and perspective of kids, and, you connect with all of them on a different level, some through sports, some through, family or friends or cousins, and others just you just have a natural connection with, and it's a super cool experience. And I think that is something that I have always thought is interesting or appealing to me. It was, being able to work through, especially in again high school or junior high, especially. That's kind of where people are in the midst of becoming that mature, starting to kind of go into adulthood, but they're also they're coming up from the elementary school and stuff, and that's kind of where a lot of stuff happens, and you're going through a lot of different changes. So I think that would be something that I would be interested in, would be most definitely working with kids in that field. So
You're already such a fantastic role model, and it's clear you will continue to be that way. Let's talk a little bit more as we wrap things up about your overall mindset. Do you remember when you were younger and dealing with your cancer treatments where you just were negative, where you did think, why me? And what was said to you to switch that into, God did this for a reason. He did choose me.
For a long time, I always asked the question, kind of why did it have to be me? Why couldn't I guess in my mind I kind of said, why can't I live a normal life? And that was a big thing that weighed on me for a long time. But actually, ironically, the big kind of turning point for me was when I got to meet Adam Wainwright, and he gave me I got a baseball signed by all of them, but I had one signed just from him, and he wrote a little message on there, and he just kind of told me keep going and doing all this, and then at the bottom of it he wrote Acts 20:24, the Bible verse, and that kind of struck I guess I don't want to say it struck like an interest, I guess, and that was started to get me kind of wanting to learn about what does this mean, and what is where do these come from and stuff like that. And that's when that kind of relationship with God started to kind of happen and follow through, and I started kind of going to church and stuff and figuring things out, and then it kind of came more clear cut to me that's this isn't a negative thing that happened. This could be, you can turn this into a vast variety of positive things. So I guess that positive outlook kind of came, with the fact that, if I have God on my side and I can have the supporting cast that I do behind me, then I can do anything. And that's kind of where that mindset came from going into high school, and even following kind of into this year was just anything I set my mind to, I can probably get done. And, we've been all positive so far. It's happened, so.
So currently, Acts is in the New Testament. I am only in the book of Luke, so I haven't gotten to Acts yet. What is that verse?
Basically just, kind of telling you to keep going. I mean, it's one of those where it's just it hit hard for me because, there's been so many times where I've been I don't want to do this anymore. My legs hurt. I just want to be done and stuff like that. And, seeing that, and that just kind of gave me that sense of hope that things will get better and stuff. And, when I went and looked, and I was just and I read it, and I was oh man, this is telling me to keep going and be strong and trusting God with my plan. That was a big thing for me, kind of, having that motivation to, want to be the best version of myself. So then, obviously as I got older and stuff, and I kind of started to understand everything a little bit more and better, and then I got into church, and I got really close with God. I think that was a big help with the mental part of everything and dealing with it. And, with football season, there was times after we'd get done with the team prayer, I'd go and kind of pray with myself. And that was just kind of stuff to me that, I think have played a big factor into my life. And I think that is, again, the super big thing with like helping my mindset kind of get straight and know where I want to do and get my priorities right. So
You mentioned, why can't I just live a normal life? I look at you, there's nothing normal about it. It's not ordinary, it's extraordinary. I'm so excited to see what you do in your senior year. I'm so excited to see what sport you end up playing, and it's amazing that you are so good at 3 sports where even now you're like, it really could be any of them. That's awesome. I'm so excited to see how you lead the Flora Wolves next year in your senior year. What other words of wisdom do you have for older people? Because my gosh, I've learned so much from you, and I know our listeners and viewers have too.
I just kind of, I live by a quote, and it's kind of funny, depends on like the day, but you can't be upset about how many days you have left in life, but it's about how much life you put into each day. And I kind of live by that, and it's something that I've always kind of struck an interest with. And it's like, if I give every day, no matter how I feel or no matter the stuff that's going on, or if I even want to get up out of bed, if I go at it and hit it 100% as hard as I can, then it obviously for me, it's turned out so much better that way, instead of waking up out of bed and being like, oh, I don't want to do this, and then just whatever. So, you hear it all over the place. It's just one of those things where you just got to keep going. No matter the day, no matter the outcome, whatever's going on, you just keep your head high and know why you're there in that situation. You're put there for a reason. So, make do with the best that you can. So.
You've put a lot of life into my day. I've been looking so forward to this conversation all week. I didn't realize I would learn so much from you, and I know that people who are listening feel the exact same way. Gage Dugan from Flora High School, a junior, 16 years old, representing the state of Illinois now on the national level as he goes on to go up for the Spirit of Sport Award in Salt Lake City in late June. I'm cheering for you. That's very easy. I'm going to be cheering for you with everything that you do in life.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for missing part of your school day. Do you have to go back after this?
Yeah, we're head back home. So.
Thank you for making the drive. This was such a treat. Adam Wainwright, if you are just joining, sent you a video. I will be texting that to you so you can keep that. But he's a pretty big fan of yours, and I'm a pretty big fan of yours too.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys having me.
Oh, all right, friends. Wait, final question. Who do you have winning March Madness?
Which bracket? Like my serious bracket?
How many brackets do you have?
Oh, I filled a lot out. My serious bracket, I think I had, who was it? Oh, I had Arizona winning.
Okay. Still standing by that? To
Yes.
play today?
Yeah, we're standing by it.
Okay, well, I only did one bracket, and I'm wearing the color. Let's go, Illini! Huge win last night, and I have to say good luck to Mizzou tonight, and congrats to SLU last night. Until next time, friends, thank you for listening, thank you for learning, and thank you for being Live with Laura.